We've explained in previous classes that the Muslim should try his or her best to learn The Muslim should try his or her best to get as close to the Prophet ﷺ's prayer as possible. Not just to make the salah, but to make the salah in the way that Muhammad ﷺ made it, to the best of his ability, depending on the amount of knowledge that you have, and depending on your physical capabilities. And that it shouldn't be a goal for a Muslim just to pray, just to make salah. But it should be your goal to make the salah and perfect your salah. And that which is obligatory and mandatory, and that which is recommended, that which is extra, that which is polished. The Muslim should try his or her best, not just to pray, but to make the salah in the most complete and perfect manner, to the best of his or her ability, to the best of his or her amount of knowledge, and obviously to the best or the capabilities of your body, which you can and cannot do. And the initial step is awareness. That's the initial step. The importance of the salat, the obligation of the salat, the danger of not making salat, and the importance of doing everything that you do as a Muslim according to the way of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's the first step. Not the actual classes on the fiqh of the salat. Not the actual classes on the aqidah. What is aqidah? Aqidah of Ahlul Sunnah. Or what is knowledge and who to take knowledge from. The first thing should be awareness. It's to get the Muslims to realize what is knowledge. Why knowledge? Why must you seek knowledge? What is aqidah? Why do you have to have the proper aqidah? Why is it so important to understand what it means to say La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah? Awareness is the most important thing. Awareness, awareness, and more awareness. Awareness is the step and the key to everything else. There's no awareness, there's no learning, there's no studying. There's awareness, you have at least your foot in the door for everything else, bi'idhnillahi subhanahu wa ta'ala. So how many Muslims know about this concept, that there is something which is a way in which Muhammad prayed, and a way in which Muhammad did not pray? A traditional way, a cultural way. Just pray. Pray to God. That's it. And that's sufficient. How many Muslims have this thought? Or how many Muslims, they do things with regards to the prayer, but they don't know the seriousness behind those acts and the virtue behind those acts, such as saying Ameen. Everybody understand this? So we have to raise our awareness and that of the Muslims as well with regards to trying to pray according to the Sunnah, to the best of one's ability. With regards to the knowledge that you have, there are certain issues which are difficult, certain issues which are very complex, certain issues in which there's a great deal of differing among the scholars of Islam. The layman Muslim is not expected to be on that level. The layman Muslim is not expected to have his own ijtihad, to be independent in figuring out what's right and what's wrong, everything, according to one's ability, according to one's knowledge, according to one's physical capability as well. Certain things that people cannot do. The Prophet ﷺ prayed and he stood for a very long time. Well, how could that? Everybody may not be able to do that. But to try to at least raise the awareness. And from the acts of the prayer, the things that pertain to before the prayer, during the prayer, and all the way up until the end of the prayer, from the things that the Prophet ﷺ did himself, from the things the Prophet ﷺ encouraged and commanded, from the Prophet ﷺ allowed, was the taking of the sutra. It's to pray towards a sutra. Is it obligatory? Is it recommended? What do the Hanafi scholars say about the sutra? What does Sheikh bin Baz say about the sutra? We can agree without any difference of opinion that it is from Muhammad's way to have a sutra. And if it's from Muhammad's way to have a sutra, then the word way, you have to know the way. What is a sutra? What does a sutra mean? How tall does it have to be? How thick or how thin does it have to be? What is the rule of letting someone walk between me and my sutra? Hakada. And that's the whole purpose of these what? Hadiths. The rulings of the what? Of the sutra in al-Islam. Everybody clear on this or not? The rulings of the sutra. And from the many rulings of the sutra, many of which we've explained from them, is that it is recommended. You're commanded in order to not be far from your sutra, but be what? Close to your sutra. Everybody clear on this? So that's what chapter 49 is talking about. How close do you have to be? We didn't what? We didn't get there. But he has to be what? Close. And a step is just knowing it and being aware of the thing from the beginning. A Muslim man should have a beard. The Prophet ﷺ had a beard. They knew he was reciting silently because his beard was what? Was moving, it was shaking. How long does his beard have to be? Can I trim it up? Can I shape it up? Those are all things that what? Secondary. Average Muslim doesn't know or believe that it's haram to shave. They just don't have an idea, a clue. Let alone the concept of what? Having a long beard, trimming a mustache, etc. Raise the what? Awareness. Why is it so dangerous not to have a beard? What's the big deal about shaving? It's very dangerous. It's very serious. It's not a small thing. Is it the entire religion? No one said that. Does that mean that you're automatically pious because you have a beard? No one what? No one with any sense says that. Some fool may say that or behave like that, but no person of knowledge will ever say that a piece of hair automatically makes a person what? Pious and righteous. No. Abadan. However, from piety and from righteousness is to implement Muhammad's sunnah. So the average Muslim, what ideology or what type of mindset do they have with regards to shaving? The average Muslim. It's not obligatory. It's a custom of the Arabs. Only scholars have to wear beards. You don't have, what, heck of that. Let alone before you get into the what? Detailed what? Rulings of the beard. About clearness and any other aspect of Islam. Hijab. Any other aspect of what? Of Islam. Riba. The awareness about riba. About clearness or not? So therefore from the rulings of the sutra is that you should be close and not far. How close? How many centimeters? How many feet? How many yards? How many cubits? How many paces? Those are all what? Secondary. But to get them to realize that is from the sunnah to be what? Close. Everybody clear on this? And that right there is a major what? Step. If you teach the Muslims and you make them aware of Muhammad's way, is that it's not from the sunnah to have isbal. Period. To have your pants beneath your ankles is not from Muhammad's way. Do I have to trim my pants? Is it haram if I do without pride? That's what? What's important is this is Muhammad's way. So just to realize that is a what? Is a step for people to even understand and agree upon that this is actually the way of Muhammad to do this. Everybody understand this or not? So with that being said, the ruling of getting close to the sutra. And we said that the sutra literally means a cover, a screen, a barrier. It's something of an object, or it could be a human being, of someone's back. Like how you're sitting down. If someone came and prayed behind you, your head, your neck, your back, your spine, your buttocks will be that person's what? Sutra. They're praying in back of you. And you are screening them from anyone who's going to walk what? In front of them. Everybody understand this? That's a sutra. This could be a sutra. Something that you place down on the musalla and you pray towards. A chair, a wall, a pillar, a column, a book bag. These are things which are called a what? A sutra. And it is not from Muhammad's way to come into the masjid and pray in the middle of the musalla without anything in front of you. That is not Muhammad's way. Do I have to have a sutra? Am I going to hell for not using one? We can agree that it's not what? No doubt about that. Whether it's obligatory or recommended, it's not the sunnah. So why would a Muslim, cab driver, lawyer, accountant, surgeon, any Muslim at any level of professionalism, white collar, blue collar, level, student of knowledge, layman, why would a Muslim deliberately just abandon the way of what? Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Everybody understand this? And this is one of the biggest problems between the different movements of Islam. Between the different movements of Islam, the Islamic dawahs, and the layman people versus the knowledgeable people. Everybody understand this? You're trying to throw everything down at people's throats, force the people to do everything. This is haram, that's haram, so on and so on and so forth. Yeah, akhi, I didn't say any of that. I said this is what Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam did. He used a sutra. You know more than Abu Hanifa? I didn't say that. I'm not claiming that, and I don't believe that. I know that I don't know more than him. But this is what Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam did. Is that he prayed with a sutra. Everybody understand this or not? So this is very crucially important to understand it what? like this. And this is why you can't lose when you start off with the hadiths of the Prophet ﷺ. The interpretation, the theory, that's all good. That will come. But we have concrete evidence that Muhammad said, did, commanded to have a what? Sutra. Everybody clear on this or not? So it's very important. So for any layman Muslim or students of knowledge, whoever, anyone's watching and listening to this class, do not come into the masjid and pray with nothing in front of you. If you're in Mecca or Medina, pray with what? Something in front of you. In your house, in your home, at work, no one is near you or around you. It's from Muhammad's way to do what? Put something what? In front of you. Everybody clear on this? And it is not from his way to pray without anything in front of you. Whatever your madhab or your culture. Everybody clear on this or not? Is the salah invalid without a sutra? Didn't say that. Are you sinning without a sutra? Perhaps you are. Everybody clear on this or not? طيب. Hadith number 285. The author says, Hadith Sahl ibn Sa'd radiyallahu anhu, قال كان بين مصلى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وبين الجدار ممر الشاة. It's narrated by Sahl ibn Sa'd, the companion, Sahl ibn Sa'd radiyallahu anhu. It says the distance between the musalla, praying place of Allah's Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the wall was just sufficient for sheep to pass through. Was just sufficient for sheep to pass through. Hadith 286. Hadith Salama radiyallahu anhu قال كان جدار المسجد عند المنبر ما كادت الشاة تجوزها. Says narrated Salama radiyallahu anhu, the distance between the wall of the mosque and the pulpit by the side of which the Prophet ﷺ used to offer salat was hardly enough for sheep to pass through. Hadith 287. حديث سلمة بن الأكوع رضي الله عنه قال يزيد بن أبي عبيد كنت آتي مع سلمة بن الأكوع فيصلي إن الأسطوانة التي إن المصحف فقلت يا أبا مسلم أراك تتحرى الصلاة عند هذه الأسطوانة قال إني رأيت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يتحرى الصلاة عندها. Narrated Yazid bin Abi Ubaid, and then it says here رضي الله عنه, this is a companion. I used to accompany Salama ibn al-Aqwa, who's definitely a companion, رضي الله عنه, and he used to offer salah, prayer, behind the pillar which was near to the place where the Qur'ans were kept. I said, O Abu Muslim, I see you always seeking to offer a salah behind this pillar. He replied, I saw Allah's Messenger ﷺ always seeking to offer a salah near that pillar. So these three narrations all show and prove one thing, is that there was relative closeness between Muhammad ﷺ's feet and his sutra. There was relative closeness between the Prophet ﷺ's noble forehead upon the ground and his what? Sutra. That's the highlighting point from these three hadiths, according or in conjunction with the chapter heading, is that you should not be too far from your what? Sutra. What is the obligation of the layman Muslim if he only read these three hadiths? So let's see, is to do what? What did the ulama say? Are there other narrations? What did Sa'id ibn Musayyib say? If he didn't come across those things, his obligation will be what? To take this. Clear as day. A sheep is not such of a big animal. It's not a huge wide gap. Everybody clear on this? And that's the simplicity of learning Islam. You learn more, you come across different views, then that's a different story. You keep the simplicity of what you have. Everybody clear on this or not? So Muhammad ﷺ's way is to be close to the what? To the sutra. Whether it's a wall or whether we said ustuwana, a column. Everybody clear on this or not? Everybody understand this? As far as hadith number 285, then it says Mamar Shah. We have two meanings of distance between you and your sutra. Two meanings. The first meaning is when you're standing up and the object that's in front of you. And the second meaning is when you're prostrating, you're in sujood between your forehead, your forelock, and the object in front of you. Everybody understand this? Two meanings now. The first is when you're standing up, the tips of your toes to the wall or the chair or the person's back. Everybody clear on this? And the second meaning is when you're what? In sujood, your forehead in the... Everybody clear on this or not? Khayr, inshallah. We've discussed this with a bit more detail in our playlist on the detailed rulings of the sutra. So please go back to that playlist. Let's move forward to the next chapter. Chapter number 51 says, Bab al-i'tirad bayna yaday al-musalli. And also other hadiths Or the other issue of the hadith is the ruling on praying in one place all of the time. Is that permissible, Sheikh Mahdi, for a Muslim to come in the masjid and devote himself to one place in the musalla? Is that correct and proper? That's a fiqh issue that came in the hadith, to pray at one place all of the time. Everybody clear on this? We're going to move forward to cover more hadiths, inshallah. Chapter number 51. There's no chapter 50, and the reason why is we've what? Many times. باب الاعتراض بين يدي المصلي. حديث عائشة رضي الله عنها أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم كان يصلي وهو بينه وبين القبلة على فراش أهله اعتراض الجنازة. حديث عائشة رضي الله عنها قالت كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يصلي وأنا راقدة معترضة على فراشه فإذا أراد أن يوتر أيقظني فأوترت. حديث عائشة رضي الله تعالى عنها عن مسروق قال ذكر عندها عائشة ما يقطع الصلاة الكلب والحمار والمرأة فقالت شبهتمون بالحمر والكلاب والله لقد رأيت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يصلي وإني على السرير بينه وبين القبلة مضطجعة فتبدو لي الحاجة فأكره أن أجلس فأوذي النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فأنسل من عندي رجلين. حديث عائشة رضي الله عنها قال أعدلتمون بالكلب والحمار لقد رأيتني مضطجعة على السرير فيجيء النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فيتوسط السرير فيصلي فأذكره أو قالت فأكره أن أسحنه أو أن أسنحه فأنسل من قبل رجلي السرير حتى أنسل من لحافي. حديث عائشة رضي الله عنها زوج النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم عنها قالت كنت أنام بين يدي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ورجلاي في قبلته فإذا سجد غمزني فقبضت رجلي فإذا قام بسطتهما. قالت والبيوت يومئذ ليس فيها مصابيح. حديث ميمونة رضي الله عنها قالت كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يصلي وأنا حذاءه وأنا حائض وربما أصابني ثوبه إذا سجد. The next chapter says lying in front of a person offering prayer. Lying in front of someone who's offering prayer. This is another what? Ruling of the issue of sutra. Is it permissible to pray in front of someone and they're lying down? Everybody clear on this? Whether it's sideways, their feet are directed to you, what is the ruling on this? And obviously its connection to the sutra. Everybody understand this? طيب. So it says here, al-i'tirad is to lie in front of someone while they're offering the salah. Now, you may say, how is this? Or why would someone lie in front of someone who's praying? Once more, like we've explained with regards to the issues of tahara, wudu, and ghusl, and tayammum, and things like this, life in the time of the Prophet ﷺ was very, very contrast to life in our times. The sizes of the homes, the availability of water, of heat, of food, of firewood, is nothing like how it is today. So a person may have a compartment or an apartment or a chamber, a room, which is relatively what? Small. Everybody understand this or not? Khairan, inshallah. The size of one's bed. Some people's beds today may be bigger than what? Some of the rooms back then. Your mattress. Everybody clear on this or not? Your wardrobe may be bigger than someone's what? Sleeping quarters. Everybody understand this? You sometimes certain things you just can't begin to what? Ponder. Everybody clear on this? Everybody understand this or not? So with that being said, their lifestyle oftentimes is very different. Just like it says that the Prophet ﷺ, the area of the musalla was like the passing of a sheep. I.e., that was a comparison that he made. A comparison that he made. Because there were sheep, things were simple. Will we make that comparison? Will we use that comparison today? We may say something else. Everybody clear on this or not? So don't ever get caught up on the things that are not actually intended. The things that are just used as replaceable or interchangeable what? Substitutional examples and terms. And that's not the actual wisdom by the hadith. Everybody understand this or not? Everybody clear on this or not? Khairan, inshallah. And that's also applicable to the issue of looking for the moon. That's applicable to the issue of looking for the moon. Is it permissible to use a calendar, or do you have to actually look for the moon? Those who say that you have to look for the moon, it's haram to use the calendar. That's why. And those who say that the Prophet ﷺ is saying in his hadith when you know that the moon has come, whether it's through physical human vision or other means. Everybody clear on this or not? That's a long, long discussion in itself. We're just showing you the technique and how it's used. The companions look for the moon. Everybody understand this? Did they have telescopes back then? Did they have... Everybody understand this? Different things like this. Type. Moving forward. It says here, Hadith 288 is narrated by Aisha radiallahu anha. Allah's Messenger ﷺ offered salat, prayer, while I was lying like a dead body on his family bed between him and the Qibla. Between him and the what? Type. In other words, the janazah, when someone is washed and someone is shrouded, then they're laid flat on the wooden bed to be marched to the burial ground. That's what's meant here. It says a dead body. It says what? Like a dead body. Like a person that's on their way to be buried. Everybody understand this? What's important? She was lying down and she was lying what? Flat and still. That's what's meant here. Everybody understand this? Khairan, inshallah. It says here is that I offered salah while I was lying like a dead body on his family bed between him and the Qibla. Between him and the what? So what was the sutra here? Aisha? The body or the bed? And she was just laying on top of the bed. Everybody got it or not? Tahir. Hadith 289 is also narrated by Aisha radiallahu anha. The Prophet used to offer prayer while I used to sleep across his bed in front of him. The bed was the what? Sutra. Not a question. It says here, and then when he wanted to pray witr, he would wake me up and I would pray witr. The hadith proves what the previous hadith has what? Proved that if someone is lying in front of you, it does not nullify the what? Prayer. It does not what? Nullify the prayer. It's not haram, nor does it nullify the prayer. Now later on, we're going to get into the issue of someone passing in front of you and Aisha's interpretation and interpretation of other companions. We're going to get there. So, right now, if I offer the salah and I have a chair in front of me as my sutra, and my little son or my little daughter or my cat comes and lays between me and the sutra. The cat is not the what? Sutra. Or the cat sits upon the chair. Everybody understand this? The sutra is the what? Chair. But the person or the thing is what? Lying on top of the chair or actually on the floor. They didn't walk, you didn't stop in it, it just sat there, it parked. You lazy cat. Nah. Yuki. Everybody understand this? The cat just does what? Parks down. It feels comfortable with you. Everybody understand this? And just like it's nothing. Everybody understand this? Do I have to move the cat? Or can I pray with the cat between me and the what? Sutra. Everybody understand this? Or like a little small toddler, for example. Methanan. Everybody understand this or not? That's what's being said. Clear on this or not? This hadith 289, also proves the recommendation of waking up one's wife to pray at night as well, to make the witr with you. Moving forward, hadith 290 is narrated by Aisha radiallahu anha. She said that this man here, Masruq ibn al-Ajda' was his name. He was from the greatest of the scholars, of the students of Aisha. There's a man learning from a woman here. His name is Masruq. He was a student of what? Aisha. He was Aisha's disciple. It says here that someone brought up an issue to Aisha. They brought up an issue. And the issue was things that do or do not break one's prayer. Things that do or what? Do not. In other words, if someone walks in front of you, a normal, this is your sutra here. And this is you praying. Brother Abdullah is here. Here comes Brother Zaid. And he walks in front of Brother Abdullah. What's the ruling for Brother Abdullah to do what? Stop him. But let's say he doesn't stop him. He forgets or he's too slow, or Brother Zaid overpowers him and he passes by him between the sutra and Abdullah. Is the prayer invalid or still valid? He got if the Prophet commanded him to stop him and he didn't try to stop him or he couldn't. Is the prayer invalid or not? Everybody understand this? That's a man, Brother Zaid. Now we have a woman, 35 years old. Or we have a 12-year-old girl. Or we have an animal, a cat. Or we have a dog, a speckled dog, a black dog, a white dog, a brown dog. Everybody clear on this or not? other things which do or do not what? Break your salah. Clear on this? يَقْطَعُ الصَّلَاةِ, and which your salah is no more good. Everybody understand this? Everybody clear on this or not? It's two different issues now. Somebody walking in front of you is one thing. Even though the brother walked past you, that's haram. You're supposed to have stopped him. He wasn't supposed to walk. But it doesn't necessarily mean that the prayer is what? Invalid. Now we have another thing, animal, person, male, whatever the case may be, who did pass in front of you that could or could not what? Break your salah. We understand or not? There's a difference. Everyone that passes in front of you, or everything that passes in front of you, doesn't mean that it what? Breaks the salah. Regardless of it being haram or not. It doesn't necessarily mean that it what? Breaks the salah. And there are certain people or certain things, if they do pass in front of you, it will what? Everybody clear on this? So these things were brought up in the presence of who? Aisha radiallahu anha. طيب. So Masruq is the storyteller. The student of Aisha, he said that it was brought up to her. And they mentioned three things here. They mentioned a dog, wal-himar, a donkey, wal-mar'a, and a woman. Aisha, she said, شَبَّهْتُمُونَ بِالْحُمُرِ وَالْكِلَابِ. You've resembled us between dogs and donkeys? Objecting to the one who brought up this statement, saying that Muhammad said it, this is the ruling. You're saying we're dogs and we're donkeys now? Everybody clear on this? This is what Aisha said. She then said, Wallahi, by Allah I swear, لقد رأيت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يصلي وإني على السرير بينه وبين القبلة مضطجعة. Indeed, I saw my husband, Prophet Muhammad صلى الله عليه وسلم, praying. Between him and the Qibla was a what? The bed. It was a what? A bed. You're in your room. You pray, you're making salah, voluntary prayers. Inshallah, you go to the masjid for your regular prayers, but you're far from the masjid, or it's snowing outside, or it's raining outside. Now, you're in your hotel room, there's no masjid around. You pray, and the Qibla direction is diagonal or straight. And the size and the setup of your room cause you to pray in front of your what? Your bed. Your what? Your bed. We understand the hadith. Reading the hadith is what? It's one thing. Memorizing the hadith is what? One thing. Actually having the proper fiqh of the hadith is what? A word of a difference. So the first thing we have to make the tasawwur, what is being said. Think about a small room. Everybody understand this? He making salat. Between him and the qibla, meaning the direction is the what? It's the bed. And on top of the bed was? Radiallahu anha. So she said, I used to do this. Pray in front of the Messenger of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam. And my legs, she said before that, فَتَبْدُ لِلْحَاجَةِ. She says, and something will come up, I will have to get up, do something. فَأَكْرَهُ أَنَ أَجْلِسَ. And I would dislike to sit and to annoy the Prophet ﷺ. In other words, the room, the bed was what? Small. So that's why she lie flat like a dead body, janazah. One hadith teaches you to what? Everybody clear this or not? So she's using this hadith to show how can you say that the Prophet ﷺ said these things break the salah, and which I myself was between him and his. Everybody understand this? Is Aisha right or wrong in her interpretation? The secondary. What's important is this is her understanding and her usage of the hadith. Everybody clear on this or not? Everybody understand this or not? Moving on to the next narration. Hadith 291 is very similar as well. Tayyib, how she said, so I used to slip away slowly and quietly from the foot of the bed till I got out of my blanket. Everybody understand this? Not to get up. Everybody understand this? Hadith 292 as well. Naam. And which 291 she says, do you make us women equal to dogs and donkeys? Tayyib. Hadith 292 says, in the homes, it says what? In those days there were no lamps in the houses. In those days there were what? No lamps in the houses. Simple living. Hadith 293 as well. With regards to the Messenger of Allah sallallahu, it says what? Offering salah. It says that while I was beside him during my menses. Refuting the people who say that a menstruating woman passes in front of you does what? Does salah. Everybody clear this? So we have several different issues in these hadiths now, Osama. Several issues. The first issue is, before we get into the fiqh of the sutra, is an example of how the Sahaba criticized hadiths. How they criticized hadiths. And they didn't always necessarily criticize the narrator first. But oftentimes, they would criticize what? The content first, the metin. They would criticize the content first. And if the person who brought the narration to them was a liar, they wouldn't even be in the company of the companions, aslan. So that's totally rejected. That's not even plausible. The narrator automatically was trustworthy. Now, two things. Number one, just because a person is trustworthy doesn't mean that they're what? Exempt from error. Doesn't mean that they're not what? I believe you. I don't think you're a liar, but I believe that you're mistaken. Everybody understand this? You're a trustworthy person, but I honestly believe that you made a what? An error. Everybody understand this? Once more, it is not from the way of the sunnah, from the way of the salaf, from common sense, to say just because someone is trustworthy, that they're what? Exempt. Nor is it proper to say just because a person isn't trustworthy, that they're automatically what? Wrong. Everybody understand this? We have a standard, a default standard. The default standard doesn't mean that it's what? Absolutely applied all of the time. So the person who came to Aisha, who came to Abu Bakr, who came to Umar, this companion, that companion, this tabi, they weren't liars. If they were liars, then they wouldn't have what? Been in the company of Umar, aslan. They wouldn't even be around the Sahaba anyway if they were liars. So they criticized the metin oftentimes first, the content of the hadith. I believe that you're truthful, O Umar, O Abu Musa, O Aisha, O Hudayfa. You're truthful, but you made a mistake. Muhammad never said those words. Everybody understand this? And the proof that Muhammad never said those words, or he did say them, but you've misinterpreted them, is kada, 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 kada. I said, I lied, so on and so forth. Everybody understand this or not? So talking about hadith sciences, this is a proof of what, Lutfi? Metin what? Criticism. Of metin what? Criticism. And it's scientifically inaccurate to say that there was never ever a critique of the metin. And that everything was always a critique of the isnad. That's wrong. And the proof is what? Right here. Everybody clear this or not? Hadiths, these hadiths also teach us, once more, like we took before, the companions never sucked up to anyone. They never kissed up to anyone. They didn't care who you were. They said what they thought was the truth, whether they were right or wrong. Muhammad said this, the Prophet said this ruling. No. Everybody understand this? They used their own dalil. They weren't people that just want to blindly follow someone and fanatically cling and attach just because of the personality who brought it. Everybody saying this or not? Everybody clear on this? Tight. This hadith also shows us that the Prophet ﷺ's marriage to Aisha radiallahu anha, nothing about it was immoral. Nothing about it was immoral. Nothing about it was indecent. Nothing about the Prophet ﷺ's marriage was religiously, socially, culturally wrong. And the proof that it wasn't is the fact that Aisha radiallahu anha lived many years after the Prophet ﷺ, and she lived a healthy, normal, vibrant life, and she became a great scholar and also a critical scholar, a voracious scholar of Islam. Oftentimes dominating what? Men. Not just others. What? Men. Everybody clear on this? So if the Aisha radiallahu anha, if she was taken at the tender age of 9, and the Messenger of Allah ﷺ was so old, and the Messenger of Allah ﷺ was with her for several years out of her life until he passed away, ﷺ, there would have been severe mental and psychological what? Damage. Severe damage. A woman who's molested, a woman who's raped at the age of 15, grows up what? Troubled. 19. A grown woman, let alone what?
9 years old.
6 years old, 9 years old. That's severe tender age. So if it was abuse and rape and pedophilia and so on and so forth, then how is it possibly possible for her to have grown up and did and became what she what? Was. And she wasn't just a scholar in her own right, but she also had what? Students, disciples, people that studied and learned from her. that would travel to her to ask her fatwa. That just doesn't make what? Sense. The first sign, or from the first signs of a person that's abused or raped or molested or taken advantage of, is that they have severe lack of confidence. Severe lack of confidence. Severe, major, basic insecurities and dealing with other people and interacting with other people. Everybody understand this? You having a severe insecurity, major dysfunctional or issue of being dysfunctional with people, that and being a scholar of hadith, being a criticizer of hadith is like water and oil. They just don't mix. There's no way that you can have that type of strong personality. Well, that what? Everybody clear this or not? So, the people who talk about the Prophet's marriage to Aisha, there's different ways that they go about it. So, whether they're Muslim or not. Some they say he never married Aisha at the age of 6 or 9. That's inaccurate. It's a mistake of Hisham ibn Urwa. And rather he married her when he was what? When she was 18. That's one scenario. Another scenario, those who say no, clearly says he married her at 6, consummated at the age of 9. It states inside Bukhari and others just like that. But it wasn't a bad thing. It was allowed. It was known, so on and so on and so on and so forth. Everybody clear on this? And in others, they may say other than that. So let's do the first two scenarios. So if he married her at the age of 18, what makes a person hold the view that it's inaccurate? Because they are scholars of hadith and they actually believe that and feel that? That's one scenario. La bas. If you're an independent scholar of hadith, a student of hadith, and that's what you feel, that the narration that says 9 is wrong, that's fine. As long as you're not saying that running from the non-Muslims and their attack and their slander and their pressure of the accusation of pedophilia. Everybody understand this? And we know that most people who do say that she was 18, they're what? Running from that. Type. Okay. So, if she was 18, there's no doubt about it. You cannot deny the fact that there's a difference between 9 and 18. And if you were forced to accept a number, if you had a choice, you would want to say 18 instead of 9. No question. We're speaking of common sense. If I had to. You see what I'm saying to you? You telling your grandmother that the Prophet married an 18-year-old girl or a 9-year-old girl. Which one would you rather choose? Without a question. There's no doubt about that. I said if what? If you had a choice. Everybody understand this? Number 2, that's still problematic according to the same standards of those who say that it's pedophilia. Same standards, if not similar standards. For a 40-year-old man to marry an 8-year-old woman is what? Culturally accepted or rejected? Severely or just slightly? If you're 40 years old, Sheikh Mahdi, you want to say Sheikh's age. If you took an 18-year-old girl home to your mother in South Carolina and said, this is my wife, how would she look at you? You said tripping, right? Tripping. Everybody understand this? How stunned would she look if you said, this is my bride? She's of age. It's not rape. It's not statutory rape, her consent, but she's 18. How would your mother, and you have a gray beard, how would your mother look at you? Everybody understand this? A 40-year-old man, 45, 41, 42, to marry an 18-year-old girl is considered what? It's still majorly, culturally what? Taboo, without a question. So you're running from something. The answer of 18 may be it may be lesser, but you're still what? And the Prophet of Islam is still under the threat and the attack of lust and being a lustful man. Without question. He had several wives and he married an 18-year-old girl. So you're trying to kiss up and appease them and satisfy them, but in actuality, you really what? You really can't. If Aisha radiallahu anha was 40 years old, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam had several wives. So they're still going to say, those who want to say that he was a what? Man of lust. So where are you what? فَأَيْنَ تَذْهَبُونَ? Where are you going? Where are you what? Where are you going? Type. And that's the first thing. Everybody understand this? Very few people deal with the situation this critically. If she was 6 and then 9, what makes the marriage wrong? Why is pedophilia so bad? Child pornography. Why is it so bad? Why is rape and molestation so bad? Why is it bad, Abdul Qabi? In America. Why is it bad? Number 1. We have a grown man, a principal at a school, a teacher, a scholar, somebody that's having relations with a young girl or an older woman with a young boy. Why is it bad? Number 1. Why is it bad? She can't think for herself. That's number 1. Or
violates the law.
Violates the law. Number 3, taking advantage, exploiting her. Why? What's the 4th point? Why is it so bad? She's inexperienced. She hasn't reached puberty. Her body isn't physically what? Ready for that. Or there's no consent of who? Her guardian. Her or her guardian? She's underage. We cover that law. That's already included in law. It's against the law of the time. Or age difference. It's just not right, right? It's not right. Or it's culturally rejected. Right. Very good. It's not the norm. It's just not right culturally. Even if it was allowed, right? Such as a 40-year-old man with a 18-year-old girl. He's cradle robbing the cradle. It's just culturally what? It's not good. Even though it's above the age of what? Consent type. Or there are many other reasons which make it wrong. Many other reasons. If you can prove that these reasons apply to the Prophet ﷺ's marriage of Aisha, then perhaps you can say that it was immoral. And if you cannot prove them and they don't mix and they don't match, then you can't say that. Did the Prophet ﷺ take advantage of Aisha? Or was it honorable, no marriage through her father and guardian, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq? Everybody understand this? Everybody clear on this or not? When he married her, the narration says that 6 years old. Did he consummate the marriage when she was a young, small girl? Or when she was 9 years old? I.e., regardless of how young the age is, there's clearly a what taken into consideration? Age. Of what? Of her body and her physical capability. Everybody clear on this or not? You can marry a 25-year-old woman. She's a virgin. And you have to be gentle when you have intercourse with her. And you can hurt her and do harm to her body. And then you can marry an 18-year-old girl who's what? Different. So age is not, in this situation, age is not the what? That's not the gauge factor. The gauge factor is the physical capability. Whether she's older or what? Younger. What else? The law. It's against the law. The law in the time of the Prophet ﷺ was what? What was it? If we even say different. Was there a central law? In Mecca, in the early days of Medina, was there a what? Central government. Was there even a... Everybody clear this or not? Everybody understand? You get the point we're trying to get into? In which you have to prove these points, why these things are bad today, how it applies to Muhammad's marriage of what? Aisha. And if you cannot do that, then you have no argument. So bring why it's bad. It's bad because he's raping her. He's molesting her. He's taking advantage of her. He's leaving her damaged. He's doing this. He's doing that. He's this. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu, this is my daughter. You marry my daughter. You take care of my daughter. You travel with my daughter. You teach my daughter. You live with my daughter. This is what she's saying about the man. Everybody understand this? That doesn't add what? It does add. Everybody understand the point I'm trying to get to? That is the way to how you deal with this issue. And not running from it and hiding from it. Put it on the table and be transparent. And then if you're a Christian, let's not talk about the Bible. And let's not talk about the prophets. And this woman and this man. And let's not get into how many wives. Everybody understand this? If a person is a Jewish person, we say more. Everybody understand the point we're trying to get to? Everybody clear on this or not? And if you're an atheist, then you can't say anything because you don't have no rules that you live by. You don't understand the basic concept of faith. So we can't even sit there and have a cup of coffee together because you don't believe in God. So how can a full-fledged practicing Muslim and an atheist agree on something like this? Everybody understand this? It just doesn't make sense. You're never ever going to go anywhere. Everybody understand this? This is how you critically deal with these issues. And at the end of the day, if a person still is uncomfortable or displeased or it was wrong, then say, Lakum dinukum waliyadin. I believe that Muhammad ﷺ was a true and honest prophet, and that's what, inshallah, I'm going to die upon. Bi'idhnillah. You believe that he wasn't. It was pedophilia. Islam is false because of the one issue with Aisha. You die upon that, and we'll stand in front of God Almighty on the day of judgment. Everybody understand this? But scholastically, scientifically, you have to prove what makes something bad. And there isn't a time of rape, of molestation, of abuse, except that it's going to fall under one of those what? Major categories. A woman was exploited against her will. A woman was dishonored. A woman was physically taken advantage of. She wasn't looked after. He did this. It was against the law. It was against the culture. So on and so on and so on and so forth. There isn't a case of rape or abuse of pedophilia, except it's going to fall under what? One of those categories. Everybody understand this? He did physical damage to her body because she was so young. He did physical damage to her body even though she was grown because of his violence and aggression. Everybody understand this? If those things don't apply, then you can no longer say that it's what? Everybody clear this or not? Khairan, inshallah. So that's very important for us to understand. It's how Aisha radiallahu anha grew up. Moving forward. Hadith also shows us, 292, the simplicity of the Prophet's lifestyle. So, now the issue is what? Issue number one is, what is the ruling? And also, before we move forward, Hadith number 293 is the issue of the purity of a missing woman's garments. It says, وَرُبَّمَا أَصَابَنِي ثَوْبُهُ إِذَا سَجَدَ. Her garments and her physical body. She says that when he made sujood, his clothes sometimes what? Touch me. Everybody, as we explained before, that when a woman is menstruating, her physical body is not impure. The only thing that is impure is the blood of menstruation and that which it falls upon. Everybody understand this? You can sit with your menstruating wife, talk with her, joke with her, eat with her. We even mention certain acts of intimacy with her, as long as it's not that. Everybody clear this or not? Type. So the main issue we have here is lying in front of someone. And also things that break the salah or don't break the salah. Everybody clear on this or not? Tayyib. An-Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala, he says, explaining this hadith here, or these hadiths, because it's a chapter in Sahih Muslim. It's not in Bukhari and Muslim. Hadith is only in Sahih Muslim, narrated by Abu Dharr radiallahu anhu. Imam Muslim, he said, حدثنا أبو بكر بن أبي شيبة قال حدثنا إسماعيل بن علية حاء قال وحدثني زهير بن حرب قال حدثنا إسماعيل بن إبراهيم عن يونس عن حميد بن هلال عن عبد الله بن الصامت عن أبي ذر رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا قام أحدكم يصلي فإنه يستره إذا كان بين يديه مثل آخرة الرحل فإذا لم يكن بين يديه مثل آخرة الرحل فإنه يقطع صلاته الحمار والمرأة والكلب الأسود. قلت يا أبا ذر ما بال الكلب الأسود من الكلب الأحمر من الكلب الأصفر؟ قال يا ابن أخي سألت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم كما سألتني فقال الكلب الأسود شيطان. Imam Muslim mentions his isnad. It goes back to Abu Dharr, the companion, radiallahu anhu, in which the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, إِذَا قَامَ أَحَدُكُمْ يُصَلِّي. When one of you is standing up and praying, you're offering salah, فَإِنَّهُ يَسْتُرُهُ إِذَا كَانَ بَيْنِ يَدَيْهِ مِثْلُ آخِرَةِ الرَّحْلِ. He says, then as long as you have something in front of you that's as tall as the back of a saddle, similar to this, like your forearm, the back of a saddle, an old-fashioned wooden saddle, he says, then that protects you from people what? Walking in front of you. Sutra, as we've explained in detail. He then says, فَإِذَا لَمْ يَكُنْ بَيْنَ يَدَيْهِ مِثْلُ آخِرَةِ الرَّحْلِ. If that's not the case, you don't have the sutra that is that length, then the following things will break his prayer. The following things will what? Break his prayer. Number one, al-himar is a donkey. Number two, wal-mar'ah is a woman. Another narration says a ha'adh, a mincing woman. But that's not what's meant here. Menstruating, meaning a woman of age, pubescent, of age. Last but not least, wal-kalb wal-aswad, and it is a black dog, to the end of the narration. So the hadith affirms how many things break the salat? 3 things. Everybody clear on this? An-Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala, he says regarding this, اختلف العلماء في هذا فقال بعضهم يقطع هؤلاء الصلاة. He says the scholars of Islam, they differ on this issue. Which breaks the prayer? We're not talking about someone walking in front of you being haram. We've done with that. We explained that last week. We're talking about if someone walks in front of you, you don't stop them, and they actually what? Pass between you and your sutra, your prayer is broken. He says the scholars of Islam, they differ on this issue. Some of them say these 3 things, what? Break the prayer. They took the hadith as it states. They took the hadith what? As it states. Everybody clear on this? Obviously, Aisha radiallahu anha is saying the opposite. And that's her proof, what she did, her understanding and her interpretation. Everybody clear on this or not? That's number one. Number two, وقال أحمد بن حنبل رضي الله عنه يقطعها الكلب الأسود وفي قلبي من الحمار والمرأة شيء. Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, Nabi says رضي الله عنه, he says that the black dog breaks the prayer. As far as a donkey and a woman, then I really don't feel too confident about that. Imam Ahmad said, he says, fil qalbi, he says, in my heart from that is shay. I don't know about that. Why did Imam Ahmad say that? Did Imam Ahmad declare the hadith to be da'if, so on and so forth? Al-Muhim, that's what he said. So the second view is that all three things don't break the prayer, but only a what? One thing, which was the black dog. Everybody clear this or not? Everybody understand this? That's what Imam Ahmad said. Moving forward, it says, ووجه قوله أن الكلب لم يجئ في الترخيص فيه شيء يعارض هذا الحديث وأما المرأة ففي حديث عائشة رضي الله عنها المذكور بعد هذا وفي الحمار حديث ابن عباس السابق وقال مالك وأبو حنيفة والشافعي رضي الله عنهم وجمهور العلماء من السلف والخلف لا تبطل الصلاة بمرور شيء من هؤلاء ولا من غيرهم وتأول هؤلاء هذا الحديث على أن المراد بالقطع نقص الصلاة لشغل القلب بهذه الأشياء وليس المراد إبطالها ومنهم من يدعي نسخه بالحديث الآخر لا يقطع صلاة المرء شيء وادرؤوا ما استطعتم وهذا غير مرضي لأن النسخ لا يصار إليه إلا إذا تعذر الجمع بين الأحاديث وتأويلها وعلمنا التاريخ وليس هنا تاريخ ولا تعذر الجمع والتأويل بل يتأول على ما ذكرنا وأن حديث لا يقطع صلاة المرء شيء ضعيف والله أعلم. Listen very carefully. An-Nawawi, he says, and the reason, he says, وَوَجْهُ قَوْلِهِ أَنَّ الْكَلْبَ لَمْ يَجِي فِي التَّرْخِيصِ فِيهِ شَيْءٌ. The reason why Imam Ahmad said that is that it says that there are no other hadiths that make an exception to the rule of the black dog. Hadiths, Imam Ahmad feels and says, with regards to a woman, and with regards to a what? A donkey. That's why he only picked one from among three. Everybody clear on this? Moving forward. Now he says, moving on, ila an qala, Imam Malik's view, Abu Hanifa's view, Shafi'i's view, may Allah be pleased with him, he says, and most of the ulama, from the Salaf and the Khalaf. So before we move over, so far we have most of the ulama, 90%, 95, 9%, and who else? Imam Ahmad. Perhaps there were a few others from the Tabi'in. So when you said Abu Hanifa went against the ulama, he's shadh, he's going against all the ulama, and this issue is the same thing against what? So stop the what? Hypocrisy. Stop the what? Hypocrisy. Don't bash Abu Hanifa and then say Imam Ahmad is Imam Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Everybody understand this? Not saying that he's not. But the point is the fiqh issues, everybody understand this? Abu Hanifa was independent and Imam Ahmad was what? Independent. Views in which Imam Ahmad was against the other ulama, and views in which Abu Hanifa was what? The percentage, what's Abu Hanifa always? That's once is what? Enough. Especially in your book. Everybody understand this? You stole once what? Cut off his head, not his hands. Everybody understand this or not? Especially in your whose book? In your book. When a person, you say one thing wrong in a lecture, what? Yikes. Get him out of here. Don't take what? Everybody understand this? Let alone the fact that through our study of this book, this is one volume on Sharh Sahih Muslim that we finished. Walillah alhamd. How many pages are here so far we read? 450 pages. How many other issues have we read like this? Imam Ahmad and the rest of the ulama. Everybody understand this? So he says that Shafi'i, Malik, Abu Hanifa, and most of the Salaf and the Khalaf, all of them said no. Nothing breaks the what? The prayer. Everybody understand this or not? So don't bash someone for taking a view here. And Sheikh Albani always went against the ulama. He went against all of the ulama. In this issue, so did. Everybody understand this? Moving forward. He says that all of these scholars, they interpreted the hadith. And they say that this hadith only means that the prayer is deficient. Its value and its reward is what? Less. Because when these things pass in front of someone, one's mind becomes what? Shughul al-qalb. Distracted by these things. You feel that strong or not? You got to be honest. Let's see. Don't ever apologize for how you feel. You understand? You say it was, I'm sorry if you feel that way. I'm what? I apologize if you feel that what? I don't feel like I hurt your feelings or I did anything wrong from the get-go. But you have to tell her what? If you feel that I what? I'm sorry. Everybody understand this? But you shouldn't have to apologize for your what? For your feelings, not actions. You shouldn't have to apologize for how you what? How you feel. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't feel it makes that much sense. Just because most of the ulama say don't mean that it's absolutely right. Maybe Muhammad is right. Everybody understand this? You don't have to apologize for what, Lutfi? The hadith says the three things what? Yaqta, break. And then they say it only what? Everybody clear this? So what is the difference between these three things and anything else that does what? If a fox ran in front of you and your sister, would it not what? Would it not distract you? Maybe more. Everybody clear this or not? So that view right there is what? Everybody clear this or not? Tayyib. So far, the view that seems the most correct is what? Imam Ahmad's view? No. The first view in which he didn't mention anyone who said it. He says what? Ha'ula. All. Imam Ahmad only took what? One from three. The closest view so far is the view that says what? All three break the salah. And it is or isn't something that's clearly, tangibly understood. It's worship. If this passes in front of you, then the law says what? Prayer is broken. Because what is the difference between these three things and what? Anything else that walks and comes in front of you. Your mind is going to be what? Distracted. Everybody clear this or not? So there's something that's what? Purely what? Spiritual. Something that our human minds don't get. This is what Allah has legislated upon the tongue of His Messenger. Everybody clear on this? So you start opening up the door for this interpretation, that interpretation, what will remain from our what? Our deen. Why face the east when you make salah? Face any direction. The Quran says, wherever you turn, Sahih? Everybody understand this? You start opening the door for these type of interpretations. What will remain? Everybody clear on this or not? What will what? Remain of the deen. So the view that seems to be most correct so far is that these three things what? Break the salah. Tayyib. Moving forward. He says that they say that the heart will be preoccupied and busied, and that's what's meant by the prayer being broken. Opinion number 4. Or this is the same opinion, but the reason why they don't take the hadith. Because say, why don't they take the hadith? You would say, Osama. It's the reason why. They took the hadith, but they had a different what? Interpretation. Others, they say that the hadith has been abrogated. It's no longer a ruling. At one point in time, it what? It was a ruling. But the hadith has been abrogated. And the thing which abrogated it was the hadith that says, nothing breaks a man's prayer. وَدْرَؤُوا مَسْتَطَعْتُمْ. And repel to the best of your ability. There's a hadith that says, nothing breaks a what? A man's prayer. And do what? As much as? So they said that hadith came later on, which canceled the what? Previous hadith. And it says that how many things break it? 3. Clear on this or not? I know he rejects this. And he says, first and foremost, we don't say that something is abrogated unless we have to. Because we can't combine, we can't harmonize. And we have to know what time the Prophet said this hadith and what time he said what? For it to be the last and that to be the what? Everybody clear on this or not? Khairan inshallah? Tayyib. So that's the end of that chapter here. He then says with regards to Aisha's statement, استدلت به عائشة رضي الله عنها والعلماء بعدها على أن المرأة لا تقطع صلاة الرجل وفي جواز الصلاة إليها وكره العلماء أو جماعة منهم الصلاة إليها لغير النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم لخوف الفتنة بها وتذكرها واشتغال القلب بها بالنظر إليها وأما النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فمنزه عن هذا كله وصلاته مع أنه كان في الليل والبيوت يومئذ ليس فيها مصابيح. He says when Aisha says that I was lying in front of him like the janazah, He says, I should use this hadith and all the ulama as well to prove that a woman does not what? Break the salah. They use that hadith against the hadith of Abu Dhar that we read in Sahih Muslim, in which the what? Three things. You got to be very smart and witty to keep up with this. Your mind has to what? You got to have the stuff in front of you as you go along in a debate. This is a class. Imagine if you're in an actual what, Khalid? Debate without no books, no papers. Everybody clear this or not? He says here, you got to focus. He says here that they use this narration of Aisha to understand the narration of Abu Dhar, in which the Prophet ﷺ said what? The three things that use a sutra like the back of a saddle in Sahih Muslim. Now, he says this is the view of Aisha and those ulama. The correct view is that Aisha radiallahu anha in this situation is incorrect. Because the Prophet ﷺ says, passing. Aywa. Or even if she was on the floor, she didn't what? She didn't pass. She didn't what? Or even if she was on the floor in between the bed. But here's the difference. Once more, we make an example. You didn't pay attention to the cat example. The cat walking in front of you is one scenario. Then the cat comes, purrs, rubs on your legs and does what? Plops down lazily in front of you. It's a what? A difference. So those ulama, they said Aisha didn't pass, but she was there from the... Everybody clear on this or not? Just because Aisha radiallahu anha says something or interprets something does not mean that that's what? That what all the other Sahaba believed and understood. As we said before about many other what? Issues. But the benefit that we take from Aisha is her criticism, regardless whether she's right or wrong. She's a fighter, regardless. Everybody understand this? She was fighting. No. May Allah have mercy upon this one. Everybody understand that? That does not mean that her interpretation was what? When the Prophet ﷺ is quoted to have said, إِنَّ الْمَيِّتَ لَيُعَذَّبُ بِبُكَاءِ أَهْلِهِ عَلَيْهِ. That when a person dies, he'll be punished because of what? The family members crying. Aisha rejected that hadith. And she said that the companions who narrated the hadith, they made a mistake. Because Allah says, وَلَا تَزِرُ وَازِرَةٌ وِزْرَ أُخْرَى. In the Quran, Allah says, no bearer of burdens will what? Bear the burdens of another. Was Aisha right in that? No, she was not. And that hadith is authentic. The Prophet, he said that. And there's a meaning to that hadith. There's an interpretation of hadith. But those companions were trustworthy. And they were also what? Accurate. They were both. Listen, they were accurate and what? Trustworthy. They heard the Messenger of Allah and what? Say that. Aisha didn't hear it. She wasn't around, so on and so forth. What did Aisha say about urinating standing up? She says, anyone who what? You hear say that the Messenger of Allah and you're standing up, then what? Don't believe him. He's lying. And Hudayfa radiallahu anhu, he said what? Hudayfa's not a liar, nor is he inaccurate. Hudayfa, the narration say, this is when you were adorning yourself. And we were out with what? Making jihad with the Prophet ﷺ. Your knowledge is here. Our knowledge is what? Everybody understand that? This is a very crucially important point. One companion's narration or opinion doesn't mean that that's what? Abadan. It doesn't mean that it's right. But we always benefit from it from the what? The aspect of what? The criticism and the personality of Aisha radiallahu anha. She was critical. She was a critical what? Critical scholar. And the scholar is to follow what is in his heart. This is what I believe. Sheikh Fulan said it. May Allah have mercy on him. I don't what? I don't believe that. I'm sorry. Malish. I don't what? I don't have that in my heart. Everybody understand this? So how can we say we follow the Salaf al-Salih? Aisha from the Salaf. Hudayfa, Umar ibn Khattab, Abdullah ibn Umar, Abu Hurairah. All of them from the Salaf al-Salih. Aisha said it. What did they say? The mother of the believers, the Prophet's wife, his favorite wife. No. Abadan. May Allah have mercy on Aisha. Abu Hurairah, who was a more intimate student than Abu Hurairah? That didn't stop Aisha from what? Saying that he made an error, regardless who was right or who was wrong. Today, the people that say we follow the Salaf al-Salih, Sheikh Fulan says something, is what? Deaf, dumb, and blind. It's over, done. Close the book. There's no discussion. Sheikh Fulan ruled on him, khalas. It's the haqq. And if you don't agree with it, and if it doesn't make sense to you, then say pray at night. Say pray at nighttime and ask Allah to open your heart for the verdict of this sheikh. Wallahi al-azim. This is not a lie. It's not a joke. This is actual speech. Pray at night and ask Allah to what? Expand your breasts. Everybody understand this? And then we say we follow the what? The Sahaba. Everybody understand this? Well, if you differ with Sheikh Fulan, you disrespected him, you reviled him. No. I don't disrespect him or revile him, but I don't what? I agree with him. And we were in Medina and we sat at their feet. They were the ones who said what? Don't follow us. Follow the truth, even if it's against my statement. Everybody understand this? Follow what makes the most what? Sense to you. That's the true way of the Salaf as-Salih. And not the counterfeit, fraudulent, fake, phony way in which the people try to shove that in people's face today. It's to create a whole entire generation of clones and zombies. Sheikh Fulan, who passes it on to this sheikh, to that sheikh, to this brother, up until the last smallest person in the pea pod. He's from the brothers in the West that can make verdicts on people. Yes, he's good, he's not good. Take from him, don't take from him. Where did he study? What does he know? Well, no, he's given praise by such and such. Who's given praise by? Who's given praise by? Everybody understand this is a game. Who got praise? Who did Umar? Who praised Umar? The Messenger of Allah. Did Aisha accept Umar's statement in that issue? She said he was what? Mistaken. And these people, they say what? We're upon the way to Salaf. This is a joke, yani. Waliyadhu billah. May Allah protect us from this. So it's important is when it comes to any issue of the deen, and also as some ignoramuses, more ignorant than those who are ignorant, they say, how can you take a fiqh issue and make it an issue of aqidah and minhaj? Hada. Oh, you. What is the difference between the principle of taking someone's opinion that you feel is wrong or saying what you feel is right regardless of the person's status? Does it matter on what issue of the deen it is? Everybody clear this or not? So, yani, it's very sad, yani. That's why it's important to read books and to study and not just to take from people, but to actually what? To read the books and read the actual way of the Salaf as-Salih and how they behaved with each other. They didn't all kiss each other on the feet and the head every day. No, they differed. They debated. Everybody understand this? Rather, there's times in which they what? Fought. Because of the truth which they believed. We feel they were right. We feel you're wrong. You're companions, we're companions. But the truth is what? The greatest companion. Everybody understand this? Allah Azza wa Jalla surely knows best. Last but not least are the issues that we mentioned with regards to praying in front of your wife. And what the ulama say with regards to that being disliked. Someone says it's makruh to pray towards your wife because the person will become distracted and maybe infatuated. And they say that the Prophet ﷺ, because one going to say, well, what about the Prophet? The Prophet did it. They said that no one was like the Prophet ﷺ. And also they said that the room was what? It's dark. Not small. This and then there's a what? Then there's a what? Then there's another one. You just got the first stroke. There's another one now. Tayyib. They said that the houses had what? Masabih. So they said it was dark. Now obviously if the Prophet ﷺ does something and there's nothing specific stating that it's just for him, then the asl is that it's for what? Everybody. And if a person can pray in front of his wife or husband or anybody else and not be distracted, la bas, because that's the dalil. But it's not too far-fetched what they're saying. Praying in front of someone, especially the person sitting on the bed playing with their phone. Think about the reality and focusing on your prayer, in 2018, nah? Allah Azza wa Jalla knows best. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. We ask Allah to enlighten us and to allow us to act upon what we learn, what we study, and to make it a proof and an argument for us and not a proof and an argument against us on that day. Barakallahu feekum.